Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As-salatu was-salamu ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. All right, so sorry for being late, y'all. We're just, we're getting back into the flow of things. People's finishing up Salat, and these sort of things. So welcome back, everybody. Hope everybody had a great finish to their Ramadan and had a great Eid, inshallah. Hope everybody had a great time and spent time with the family and friends, and so forth, inshallah. So is Mubarak here or not?
I believe he said he was here. Yes.
He was on. He's popped off again. Okay, well we're gonna get started. So today's show is there's a lot of things that happened since the last time we talked. It's specifically within TMOA, the cult of TMOA, and we had a bunch of different things that we could have chosen to talk about, but we decided to speak about this since this is one of the first times that one of these alleged TMOA Azhari scholars kind of spoke out publicly about the beliefs that they have in TMOA, at least that we know of, that we've been paying attention to. So we're going to address it. And just to be clear, we're speaking about Jamal Abdul Wahid. I do not know his non-Muslim name, but he's married to Dordana. I think her name's Abdul Shakur, something like that. But she's TMOA's Qadi. She's one of TMOA's Qadis that she recently graduated from Azhar University, and he's her husband. They have been living for the last decade plus in Egypt. Allegedly, Jamal has also been attending Azhar, which Allah knows best if that's actually true or not. And we'll kind of get to some of those things that are coming up. So we're going to talk about them. We basically, there's an audio on the TMOA youth, proud youth or whatever video of Jamal basically telling a bunch of lies, quite frankly, about TMOA, about Mubarak Jelani, and also twisting the meanings of the Holy Quran, inadvertently promoting shirk and bid'ah and all these sorts of things. And we're going to kind of address them. So I don't know if Mubarak or Amr have anything to add before we kind of get right into it. There's a lot of different things we want to cover. There's a lot of quotes. We might not get through them all, but we're going to kind of get through the main idea of what's going on. And you guys will see a theme. If you watch the video yourselves, anybody who, even TMOA people, let's be realistic. When you guys watch the video, you're going to know that it's this bunch of lies. These propaganda lies, they have to stop. They're not fooling anybody. They're not fooling anybody. The one thing that we want to start with is that one of the quotes that he had, and this is basically the advice that he should follow whenever he's making a public speech about TMOA, about Jelani. He says in there, I can only speak for myself, which is true. And he should have stuck to that, because we all know that anybody's individual, personal, anecdotal experience doesn't really mean anything, right? He should have stuck to his own personal experiences and not cast it around. He makes some very bold claims about Jelani's effect on the Jamaat, Jelani's effect on Muslims in America, African-American Muslims, and Muslims across the entire globe. But these things are not true, but we're going to get into that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some quotes on the screen, and I'm just going to get feedback from Mubarak and Amr, and we're just going to kind of touch in them about basically the observations they had when they read the certain quotes that this brother was saying. And again, I just want to preface before we get into it, we're not trying to bash Jamal. I know Jamal, I visited him in Egypt. Him and his wife, they fed me, they hosted me. They're very gracious, they're very kind. However, we do have to address the falsehood that he's promoting in this video. So
I would like to just say one thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You're good. Oh, you got
kicked out.
again.
Look at that.
What's going
Back
on?
to Zoom we go.
Oh gosh, come on, Restream. What you doing? I wonder what it could be. Maybe it's connection on his side. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I don't know. It keeps like rebooting for some reason. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's my side or it's just the app or whatever. But can you hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so what I wanted to just say with this quote, actually, I can only speak for myself, which this is true, and I think at this point I will speak for myself, and that is that we of course, we do not claim to be scholars. We do not claim to have, some vast amount of knowledge of Islam. We're our students. We have spent lots of time studying the religion and are still continuing to do so. So that's number one. We're not um, even trying to say that we know more about the religion than Uncle Jamal or Ustad Jamal or Sheikh Jamal, or however he wants to refer to himself. This is not a thing where we are trying to put ourselves above him or anything like that. But what he said was incorrect. I, I wish that my teachers and those people who are more knowledgeable in Islam than me could address these issues. I wish that I could get them to actually address them so that I would not have to speak from a position of authority and be speaking, really, it's on behalf of the religion of Al-Islam. It's on behalf of Allah and the Messenger. And this is a very heavy thing. So we're not taking this lightly. We would rather people that are more knowledgeable than us to do this. But the situation is such that there's no one to do it except for us. So perhaps in reality, me, myself, I would say that maybe I'm in over my head as far as just sitting here and telling people about what Allah and His Messenger are saying. Of all the people that in the world, or just in my city, probably there's more people far better, far more qualified, far more skilled, far more knowledgeable. But right now, we are the ones who are available, and Allah has put us in a position to speak. So we are going to try to do our best. It's not trying to put ourselves above anyone or make ourselves seem better than anyone. And if it seems that way, that's not the case. Our approach is just purely business on the religion of Islam, and nothing more or less than that. If I see Jamal outside of my house or in my city or whatever, I would host him graciously and treat him well as best as I could, unless he refused. And otherwise, then I'm not responsible. But that's something that should be clear. So.
And Jamal, if you do watch this, Dordana, may Allah bless you for whatever studies that you have. I do challenge both of you to actually speak up for what is right, enjoin what is good, forbid what is evil. And don't be afraid to contact us, even if it's privately. Like we're open to that. So the first quote I want to put up there is, these are quotes that really have to relate to some of the falsehoods that he kind of talked about with Mubarak Jelani. So I'll put this quote up there, and I'm going to read it to everybody. He says, and he's talking about basically, he says Abuji, Sheikh Jelani's role with the Muslims of the Americas, his followers. And he says, especially for those that knows about the history of African Americans, they know about the attack against the African American father, resulting in a lot of cases, the non-existence of the father figure in the household. And then he further says, when we say Abuji, so the whole thing is basically supporting why they call Mubarak Jelani Abuji. Okay, this one is too long to put up, but he says, when we say Abuji, not only are we talking about our father spiritually, so he's their spiritual father. So I'll put that up there. We're not only talking about our father spiritually. He says, but in many cases, our father physically as well, because he stepped in to fill the void for so many of us in many generations, my generation and generations above that. He literally stepped in and became the father. So that's pretty much the point he's making. He's saying that Mubarak Jelani came in and literally became their father.
So the history of African American. Okay, so is he talking about just the history of African Americans in just in America, just in general, with that first quote? especially those of us that knows about the history of African American, they know about the attack against the African American father, resulting in a lot of uh, cases of the non-existence of the father in the household. Yes. So for those people that don't know, um, there was an attack. Okay, there was a systematic approach to remove the father from the household, like when they did the welfare, what was it, the Civil Rights Act. And since the Civil Rights Act and leading up through there from the 60s, 70s, 80s, things that they did, they gave welfare, but they would give the welfare and the benefits to the women. And some of the stipulations for why you could not have, some of the stipulations for having access to the welfare, to the funds and things, or to be able to live in the projects and different things, that a man could not be in the home. So if the father, the husband, whoever was there, he actually had to sometimes even hide or run out the back door, so because when they came around and looked, then they would come and knock and check to see if there was a father in the home. So what did this do? This emasculated the man. It actually gave the power to the woman. So the woman could actually say, do what I say, or I'm going to tell, such and such. I'm going to tell the government, or just get out of here because you're not even supposed to be here. I might call the cops on you. This is my house. Even if the father was not wealthy enough to cover all the expenses of his family and his children, the government would step in and help to cover it. That's one of the purposes of the government. But the stipulation was that they actually gave the funds to the woman. So his wife or his partner, his female partner, had the funds, had the money, had the purse strings. So this emasculated a lot of the men. And some of the men just said, you know what, if I'm going to be treated this way, then I'm just not going to stick around. Some of them, not all of them. But this was a systematic approach that was taken. I know I'm going through it.
Let me ask you something real quick. How does that compare to what actually happened in TMOA once Mubarak Jelani came on the scene?
It's identical.
We know.
Yep.
It's identical. It is basically what happened. The women were elevated. The fathers were taken out of the home multiple ways. One way was they were their authority was stripped away completely. So instead of father being the leader of his household, and what he says goes first and foremost, and then if he decides for his family to adhere or join to or cooperate with some broader community things or whatever, that would be his decision. Not in TMOA. Anything that the father says can be overruled by the administration. It's point blank. Whether it comes down to his finances, to his physical person, where he can and can't be. They can stop him at the top of the road and say, you can't move from here, stay there. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Yep.
They can say, you can't leave your home. They can of course we know about the just the money that comes in. And so the attack on the father, his authority, first of all, completely gone. His finances docked and stripped away, usurped, stolen, whatever you want to call it, that too. And I don't want to go too long, but I mean, and even elevating the women over the men and giving them authority over their men. This is something as well.
Yep. And I just want to say, like, when you think about it, he stepped in and became your father. And he talks about how the absence of the father. Jelani was there for a few years and then left y'all too and went back to Pakistan. So he wasn't there for y'all either as a father figure. He was overseas. So how is that any different from your actual father not being there? It sounds he wasn't there for you either.
Exactly. Let me ask you guys real quick. So, and people type in the chat that are listening, if you're from TMOA or connected to TMOA, just type, yes, my father was involved in my life, or no, my father wasn't involved in my life. And if he wasn't involved in your life, I also want to see how many of y'all that your father was not involved in your life due to TMOA, due to Mubarak Jelani. Because Mubarak, was your father involved in your life?
My father and mother were and still are married for over 40
Mhm.
years.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew a life without my father. And furthermore, I only know of two people that growing up, like person, like within our land in Tennessee, only two people that did not have their father actively in their lives, and their fathers were dead because of some foolishness that was involved with Jelani.
Exactly.
They actually were they the reasons why, actually there was three. Two of them that they were killed, and the suspicion is that they were dead, and it was due to, you know, Jamal stuff.
Yep.
And the other one is unknown, but you know, it's just speculation.
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, even the people who visited Tennessee, everyone had, you know, fathers. It was uncommon for people not to have their mother and father. Their mother and fathers, even if their mother and father weren't married, they still, you know, their fathers were in their lives. The only other people who visited Tennessee and came and lived with us for quite a while who didn't have fathers was the Adams family and the Kaba family, who their fathers were in jail because of Jelani.
Exactly.
So when we look at, you know, the fathers who were non-existent, or how he had to become Abuji, it was his fault. I mean, he was the catalyst for the reasons why, at least the people that I knew that didn't, you know, their fathers were not active in their lives, was something due to him. But for the most part, now as far as the fathers having, you know, funds and finances and spending a lot of time with their children, that was an issue because they lived probably 2 hours sometimes away from where they had to work. Why? Because Jelani had them move to some place, still taxed them, and took the money, most of the funds, so they could not actually support their families working in those small towns in which they lived next to. That they had to travel farther to the big city. If they were able to actually keep their funds, their hard-earned money, instead of having up to 100% of their check taken at times, it was up to 100%. Normally, 20% was the standard in which you had to pay to the administration. 35% was a regular occurrence. I myself had to pay that, and I was a teenager working.
Some communities had to pay 100%.
Yeah. So the thing is, if we try to say, well, the fathers didn't exist, this is not true. They were there and they were active in their children's lives as much as they could be. If they were not actually on the lands throughout the week, and they spent a lot of time out, almost as if they were like truck drivers and stuff, where they were never really there a lot. And that was because they had to work in the cities. And this reason was directly related to the policies that Jelani instituted.
Exactly.
And I can say for my generation, like there's only one person that I grew up with that, like, his father wasn't actively involved in his life. That's because, like, his dad wasn't part of the Jamaat, so he couldn't go see him. Like, so, like, you can't go see him. But besides that, everyone else, his dad was there in their lives. Like, I remember my dad would work 7 days straight. Like, he had to drive like 55 minutes from California land to work in Sacramento, and work 6 days straight. Like, and that's just what he did, because he had to send money overseas to Jelani for my mother who was over there. Like, it's just crazy to be involved. Yes, like,
it's crazy because they don't even recognize where they actually could use, like, they contradict themselves when they try to talk about Jelani's guidance, even in his own words, because at some points he talks about the generations and generations that have been raised on Jelani's teachings. Well, how do you have generations and generations? Are all these women going out and just sleeping with random men and making kids? Like, or is Jelani actually fathering all these children? No, they're actually like every single person. It'd be hard for me to think of which friends I grew up with in TMOA that their fathers actually weren't in their home. And there's one individual, like you, it's the same theme. One individual I could think of that his father was in his home, but he was never home. Why? Because he was over in Pakistan all the time. all the time serving Jelani. So this idea that Mubarak Jelani was this spiritual father and physical father, and he even says something like really, really strange where he says, what did he say? He says, oh yeah, this is what he says. He says, for many of us, he was, and he still is our father.
Okay, wait. Did he say that I can't speak for everyone, only myself? How are you gonna speak for a blanket statement, many of us? That he's I can assure you he's not my father. And I can say for like 99% of people in the Jamaat still, he's not their father. Like they have fathers in their lives.
I would like to know one person that, listen, I will gladly stand up next to my father and say, this is my dad. This is my father. Yeah. I'm his son. And he raised me. He was the one who fathered me and raised me up. I will say that without a doubt. And I will say it to anyone, and I will fight anyone who tries to say otherwise. Now, if you believe that Jelani is the one who took over as your spiritual and your your actual father took on that role, then say it out loud. Actually raise your hand or make a video or whatever you want to do and say, yes, Jelani, he's like my actual father. He filled the role of an actual father in my life, and then list the things that he did. I can tell you the things that my father did. I never actually had for someone to teach me Ayatul Kursi. You know how I learned Ayatul Kursi? Because I heard my father say it all the time after Salah. No one taught me the positions of Salah. You know how I learned that? Just watching my father pray. You know how I learned to shoot a basketball? My dad. Even though I don't have the same shooting form as him, at least he taught me how to shoot. But in things, you know how I learned to actually catch a football, how to high point it, catch it with your hands away from your body. My dad taught me that. I can go into many things. When I was about to get married, do you know who I talked to and who told me, yes, son, this is a good idea, or no, son, this is not a good idea, and told me, what he thought about it? It was my father. These are the things that fathers do, right? And many other things. When I went to get my driver's license, when I went to get my permit, do you know who took me? It was my father. I can go on and on about different things. Do you know who kicked my behind when I was acting up in the house? It was my dad. Held me upside down by one leg. I remember it. I thought, man, I'm too big for this, but he was able to do it, But the point is, there's many things that a father actually does.
Yes.
Stand up here. Tell us what your father Abuji did like that. Like I just named some things. Please. Let's do it. Please, Jafar. Name some things that your father did for you so they would get an idea.
So my father made us Muslim. They converted when I was a baby. So the reason why we're Muslim is because of my father. My father took us to the masjid. My father taught us about Islam. My father taught us martial arts. My father taught me how to play football. My father took me out and played catch with us. My father took me to my practices and all my games. My father provided for our entire family. My father is, if we want to go to Pakistani culture, my father is my Abuji. How many people for Tiongwe will actually call their father Abuji? Because that's a form of respect, right? In the Pakistani culture, it's like the G is like a honorary title, like Abuji. It's like why will you call your actual father Abuji? My father is responsible for all these positive things in my life, right? That I still, even though he's passed away, may Allah have mercy on him and forgive him. That I still look past and look at the examples and the words and the wisdom that he has given me. And I'm pretty sure for a lot of you TMOA people, it's exactly the same for you with your father. I'm pretty sure when tough times come, most of you are thinking about what your father told you. You're not going to like, well, Sheikh Jelani said in discourse number 5, you know, at the 10-minute mark that I should do this. You're thinking about the people that are directly involved in your lives. Mubarak Jelani didn't teach you how to make salat. Mubarak Jelani didn't teach you how to give salams, how to read Quran, how to do all these. Mubarak Jelani didn't pay for you to go to Hafiz school. Mubarak Jelani didn't do any of these different things that all these fathers in TMOA, which is something they should actually promote, but they're going to give Jelani the credit for it. It's really kind of despicable when you think about it. You think about like the honor that like not only fathers but all parents should have. Like how many times in the Holy Quran does Allah say, "Obey me, and respect your parents"? Obey me, believe in me, respect your parents. Where does it say Murshid Kamil?
It doesn't.
Nowhere.
It doesn't say.
Yeah.
Allah says, "La ta'buduna illa Allah wa bil walidayni ihsana." Right after this, don't worship anyone except for Allah. Wa bil walidayni ihsana. Wa dhil qurba, and then those closest to you. Wal yatama wal masakin. So it's like there's no Murshid Kamil in there. There's no your teacher, your sheikh. It's not. It's way down the list. Even if it was a good teacher, a real legit sheikh, he's not even closer to you as far as your loyalty than your neighbor. Your neighbor, actually, Allah gives them rights before some random alleged sheikh or teacher that you didn't even meet, let alone try to make him out to be your father. This is not right.
So go ahead, move on.
I would never give credit to someone besides my father for things that my father did. Like Jamal says here, like a role model. My dad was my role model, right? My dad is the one that I watched growing up behave a certain way, move a certain way, be reserved, know when to speak, know when not to speak. I watched my father once again go to work every single day, not complain once. He would go to work, come home tired, still make time for his kids and his wife every single time. I watched my father teach me how to change a tire, play baseball, football. Like I grew up watching sports because of my dad. I like sports because of my dad. But like that's the things that me cooking is because of my dad. Like I remember my dad used to make this curry, and that curry was so good. And that baby, you know what? One day I'm cooking with my dad. So one day my goal was like, hey, I'm gonna have my dad say my food's good. My dad said my food good. So like that's the thing. That's like I didn't do it for Jelani or anyone else. Like it's not. He was my spiritual god.
I mean, we could literally just wing it the rest of the show, just talking about praising our dads and talk about things. I mean, literally, I could tell you something that this might seem strange. This is the last anecdote I'm gonna give about my dad, because my dad used to come in from work, all right, at about around 11 o'clock almost every night, like clockwork. He would come in around that time. He would come in, and all of us boys would be making all types of noise and playing and that. And as soon as he would open the door, we would turn the light off and pretend to be asleep. He knew we weren't asleep. He would come in there. He would come in there, open the door. He would call our names. Mubarak, Brown Allah, Mustafa, get up. And we wouldn't say nothing. We'd be quiet. And then he'd be like, all right, that's okay. I'm going to get y'all. And then he could have came in. He could have beat us. But he never did. He never did. He would always tell us, and then as soon as he would close the door, we would bust out laughing. And like, I know he would hear us, but he was like, he had so much actually mercy on us a lot of times, because we weren't, we would cut up something. There's a lot of boys. I mean, we were a lot of trouble, but he had a lot of mercy on us. But what he would do is he would come in, and he will always have a plate of food from one of the restaurants or something, like gyro and steak, or something real good, right? And he would put it in the fridge. And every day we would get up and eat it. We would eat it and leave the box. we would eat his food and leave the box.
Y'all so flagrant.
Listen, it actually dawned on me just now during this show. He was doing it on purpose.
Just feeding
He
y'all.
was leaving that for us. Yes, he was leaving it for us. And he would act like he was mad in the morning, be like, y'all ate my food, whatever. And it's like, and we all wouldn't be saying that, but now it's like, he was doing that every day.
Every day he would get caught with the same thing over and over.
So I mean, these are the type of things that fathers do for their kids, because I find myself doing things for my kids anyway, knowing, You know, they think, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. Abu might be mad, but knowing in my heart that they ain't in trouble.
Yeah.
They're not really gonna get in trouble. Actually, I'm always gonna have that mercy on them. But this is what a father does. These are the type of things that when you say my father, these are the type of things that should come to mind.
Yeah.
Not some rando in another country. Don't do that to your father. You know, Jamal, if you didn't have a relationship with your father, if you don't know him, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
If he's still alive, even if whether he's Muslim or not, try to connect with him. And you know, you can't make up for lost time, but still you can honor your father in that way.
Yeah.
But this is not the way to honor your father. This is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, like, and just to kind of hammer it home, and just put some real flat out truths out there, Mubarak Jelani was not involved in any of y'all lives. So he like, so if your actual father was not involved in your life, neither was Mubarak Jelani. He didn't know your name.
Mm-hmm.
You never visited him. And here's the real test. He passed away, what, 2-3 years ago? If my father passed away and I was across a different country, I would find some way to go to his janazah.
Yep.
None of y'all went to his janazah.
Weren't even invited.
That means he's not. Y'all really don't really care like y'all say y'all do. Because if you did, you would have been doing everything. Like, I need to go to my fathers, my abujis, my physical and spiritual fathers' janazah. Y'all haven't. Now some of y'all are visiting his grave and kissing his grave like y'all are so dedicated just because it's a show. It's now showing off.
And if you showed up to his house while he was alive, you wouldn't even be let in. If you showed up unannounced, like right now, my father can show up to my house unannounced. He can walk right in. I can show up to my father's house, and walk right in, basically. I don't need to, like, at my parents' house, I don't go and like have to get permission to get a travel pass and this and that. No. It's my mom's house. I'm going to show up and they're not going to be like, what are you doing here? It's like, oh, great to see you, son. What's going on? You know, when I go to, visit my parents, there's no like, what are you doing here?
That's one staple, especially we're going to get to the African-American culture and just American, like any culture. Your parents' house, no matter how old you are,
your house,
is your house. You just walk in. Like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, this is even if they moved, even if it's not the house you grew up in, mom lives there, dad lives there. Yeah. Oh, hey, what's up? Right? Y'all can't do that with his house. And then the last thing I want to say, and we can move on to the next topics, is when he mentioned the spiritual father. So if you're gonna take anybody, if just me to ask y'all, and in the chat, type it in the chat, if any of y'all could take any spiritual father in all of existence, who would you pick?
This is tough, Jaffer. This is tough. I think maybe
this is a tough one. I don't know.
Maybe the top of Muhammad might be a good choice. Not some Pakistani guy. I don't know.
Exactly. Come on, and y'all know more about, or you can know more about Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam than you will ever know about this guy that had no involvement with you, did not know you, and did not care about you. So this idea of Mubarak Jelani actually being the father figure in TMOA is a complete farce. Yep.
Wait,
and
I have
one point again.
A question on the side here from my mother. What kind of abuji was shouty to his own children?
Oh gosh!
Yeah.
We try to get a whole show on this one time. and Mubarak touched on it a little bit, is because like look at the situation they're in now. Did he even do his duty as a father in his death?
Nope.
Shafat told us point blank that he wasn't involved in his dad's, Jamaat and teachings or whatever. And this is the most important thing to y'all. Y'all are told if you're not in the Jamaat, you're going to go astray, you're going to commit suicide. Surprise if you even lived, you're barely even Muslim, you're not Muslim. Jelani's own son said, my father didn't even involve us in this. He excommunicated another. Well, I guess that's, I'll leave that alone.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if you go down the list of, his own children, he's not winning any Father of the Year awards.
Nope.
They're not nominating him for nothing.
Nope.
As far as Father of the Year, no. That's not that's I mean that's clear
Yeah.
for anyone to see.
Yep. And it was
Even like
alarming to me because like Shafat was like he's not involved in stuff. I remember my dad would take me to his freaking job to do freaking carpentry construction anytime he got a chance to. I'll get paid, of course, but still, I'm like, I know how power tools, bang nails, metal framing, sheetrock, drywall, build houses. All
so let me on that point. Let me ask you, like, your father was in a certain business or trade, like he had expertise in something, right? And just like my father had expertise in something, like my father was a well-renowned martial arts teacher. Just by being in the same house, we naturally
learn how to do stuff.
Knew how to. So what is allegedly Mubarak Jelani's trade or expertise? Islam. Islam.
Swindler,
supposedly.
hustler.
No, Islam. So if he's this great sheikh, and we'll get to like how he supposedly spread the deen across the whole entire world, right? Which one of his sons are the actual scholars that are recognized scholars in the Ummah?
Noor.
But they had to send Noor, allegedly, to Azhar. So Noor spent 20 years at the feet of his dad. And doesn't even know enough to where he has to go and learn the basics. So I mean, what was he doing?
Yeah. And again, one of the quotes he says is giving us that Mubarak Jelani supposedly gave them the role model of how a father, how to be a man, how to be a husband, how to be a father to your children, how to be an imam of your household. However, we should know that in the Holy Quran, Allah says, there has certainly been for you in the messenger of Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, an excellent example for anyone whose hope is in Allah and the last day and who remembers Allah often. Your role model, all of our role models as Muslims, starts with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you should, the natural thing would be like, he showed us how to follow Rasul. He gave us an example of how to follow Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or something that connects it back to the source, but it's all malarkey. It's all bullcrap. And the next thing that he kind of wait, go ahead.
This man said he taught us how to be a husband, right, and a man. Let me just ask y'all here, right? Are y'all ever offering your wife to some other nigga? That's not how you be a man or husband. I can tell you that for sure. So listen, Jamal, like if you agree with that, more power to you. But that's definitely not how you be a man or a father or a husband.
Type it in the chat. Share. For those who know, type in the chat of is there anything of Mubarak Jelani's example that you would actually want to follow?
And hold up, let me. Okay, so if he taught you how to be a father, I think we covered that. Like that's not okay. Yep. How to be a husband. Do we have any like audio or video or anything where his wives are talking about how wonderful he was as a husband?
Nope.
I don't know of any, but we do have evidence of these wives. We have evidence that it's pretty clear that as far as taking care of the duties of a husband, there was room. There was room for improvement. Lots of room for improvement. Let me say that.
Let's just sum it up, is that we have lots of evidence that shows that none of his wives were happy in any sense of how a marriage would make a woman happy. Financially, physically, emotionally, nothing. And that's why you see examples of like after he passed away, you now see them smiling, you now see them enjoying life. It's very evident. And just
we're trying to be very, very, very respectful here.
Yes.
But no. What? How? Explain how, as a husband, he showed you how to be a husband. What are you doing as a husband that is like he did as a husband? And see if your wife stays with you. I mean, nah,
it ain't happening. Not in America.
Not gonna happen.
It ain't happening here. And just to kind of cap it off, Allah says in the Holy Quran, call them by the names of their fathers. It is more just in the sight of Allah But if you do not know their fathers, then they are still your brothers in religion. This is in Surah 33, Ayah 5. And we should all know this, that as Muslims, we do not refer to anybody as our father except for our actual fathers. It's different for little kids that may grow up in situations where like they don't really understand who the real dad, but we do not disown our fathers and take someone else as our father. You know, you can say how he's a role model. He's my father figure, but to say that he's actually our father, you know, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, whoever claims knowingly to belong to someone other than his father will be denied paradise. He also said, whoever claims to belong to someone other than his father will be cursed by Allah, the angels and all the people, and Allah will not accept any deeds or excuses from him on the day of judgment. These are both Sahih Hadiths and Muslim and Bukhari. So we have to be very careful when we're starting to spread these types of ideas of someone actually being our father.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's one thing if you are in a situation. It's like, I give an example. We used to all go and work with my dad selling clothes and stuff. And all of his sons would be there, and then a few of the other boys from the land would be there, like with us or whatever. We would say Abu, this, that, and other so much that they would just inadvertently like call my dad Abu, like calling him for something or whatever. Right. So it was like they were not saying that, hey, this is my dad. It's just like that's what he's being called, and so that's what he's going to answer to pretty quickly or whatever to get his attention. Yep. So something like that is not what we're saying, you know. But for someone to literally be like, if someone came and said, hey, young man, where's your dad at? And say, yeah, this is my father right here. You know, no, you shouldn't say that. Like, you know, you can do that. You know.
And I've heard multiple people in TMOA actually straight up deny their fathers and claim that, no, this is my real father, you know. So it's really sad situation. So next thing I want to talk about, and I'll put this quote up here, and it relates to this idea that he tried to put in his video about how Mubarak Jelani's teachings are spreading across the globe.
No.
And they're going to permeate. He says his teachings are going to permeate any and every space.
No. I would challenge you, Jamal, to take the teachings of your father, right, your Abuji, and go to your Ashari teachers and present to them in Egypt the teachings of Mubarak Jelani that you believe in.
Well, let me provide this quote because I got to rebut. It's right from the horse's mouth. He says, okay, so here we go. He says, here in Egypt, Amr.
Oh, here we go.
We have encountered quite a few people at El Azhar Sharif and many of the masjids here as well. Before Shah Sahab's teachings, they didn't know much. Now they were actually able to convey the meanings of Shah Sahab's teachings.
No, you didn't.
So Jamal, what you're saying is that at El Azhar, which is one of, if not the oldest Islamic university in the world, they got people running around that don't know the meanings of Quran. Like they don't know how to convey it, and they just were able to do that when Mubarak Jelani, who's someone who does not speak Arabic, is not fluent in the Quran, doesn't even know the Quran like that, and badly speaks, you know, in his discourses, hardly even intelligible. And they were able to then, all of a sudden, after years, centuries of scholarship about teaching the sciences of Islam, and these people just didn't know. And then somehow you pop in a grainy VHS tape of Mubarak Jelani, and all of a sudden they're able to convey all this. Do you realize how delusional that is?
Well, let's hear what he says. Let's hear his response. He says, the people would come and sit with us, and we would convey and translate it into Arabic. Once they received what Shah Sahab was saying, they were literally conveying it in their Juma khutbahs.
No. So to take it off of what Mubarak said, If Mubarak Jelani Shasam, as he said as here, was this, he would already be speaking in Arabic. It wouldn't have to be translated from Urdu to Arabic. Like, inshallah. If they're conveying it into typical pussy, Allah help us. Allah help us.
Well, do you know how, like, because we know people that go to Azhar. We actually know people that the circles that Jamal would actually hang out in. Right? They actually know him by name. Right? They know him. And we're not going to get into other details, but this absolutely was not happening. Absolutely was not happening, because just think about it. Azhar is, like Mubarak said, world-renowned institution. Mm-hmm. And if multiple teachers and imams and sheikhs at Al-Azhar University are all of a sudden quoting and pushing the teachings of Mubarak Jelani, guess what? This would start spreading. Like, wait, who is this guy? Mm-hmm. Students will start asking. People will start inquiring. Let me get that discourse, this sheikh, because this is how students of knowledge do. Whenever the sheikh or teacher quotes somebody, they write down his name and they start looking up, who is he? Where's his works? Where's his books? Let me study him. Where has that happened? It absolutely has not happened at all. This is a farce, or it's a gross exaggeration, because I'm going to tell you, because I know, and I've been there. I've been at his house. Like, he actually, in the video, he talks about a Hafiz. I know the Hafiz. I met him. The Hafiz is also, like, he basically uses, he can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my theory. All these different instances that he provides in that video, he's talking about one person. One person. And he says in the video that the Hafiz was just a Hafiz and he didn't know nothing else about Islam. However, he was also teaching them Quran. And when I was over there, he taught me how, Jamal was telling me how he was trying to recruit him to Jelaniism.
Jelaniism.
Literally, Jelaniism. Okay? So this story might be true with this one, as Jamal put it, ignorant Hafiz that didn't know Islam, and maybe he used a quote from Jelani while he was talking to Jelani disciples. Allah knows best. But as far as trying to extrapolate that and say this was happening at Azhar University, that's a gross exaggeration. And the last thing I want to say about this is, if all these people had to quote Mubarak Jelani, they didn't know Islam, they didn't know the meanings of the Holy Quran, why did Mubarak Jelani send you there?
I mean, listen, let me tell you something. No one has able to successfully stay awake through a whole Jelani discourse, let alone actually share it with someone and they actually take it. It's not that did not happen. No one actually looked at that discourse and was like, man, I got to use this in my. I'm a professor at Al-Azhar. I'm teaching this throughout the curriculum that we've been used, that actual scholars and big ulama and shuyukh of Islam have put together and detailed and compiled the curriculum and refined it and perfected it in a way that would be best to teach the students. All of a sudden they hear they were actually able to stay awake through a Jelani discourse and was like, this is to throw everything out. Let me use this. I mean, think about that. I mean, you've been to retreats when they would put the discourses on. Do you know how many people were told, stand up? Remember, there would be someone going around actually hitting people, talking about stand up, because they were asleep.
Yeah.
People would literally just falling asleep.
Exactly.
I mean, come on now. Y'all, the people who know, they know I'm telling the truth because it was a joke. Like yo, and we would laugh at the people who would have to stand up until you got caught sleeping and would have to stand up. You'd be like, all right,
I told this story when I was doing my interview for the R2F show about how my father bought a discourse from Jelani. It was after Juma. They were like, yo, you have to watch the discourse. It's important, right? My Abu came home, put it on the TV. 5 minutes went by, he was gone. he was snoring.
Oh man! Well, let me relay this. And for those of us that are attending, the Student Knowledge Program at AMAU or any other student knowledge program, one of the first things you learn is like the etiquettes of students of knowledge, especially when you're learning and in that setting. So I want to convey this story that he had in his video where he talks about one of the students that they were at El Azhar, and they had to go to the office of the professors. So he's going to all the sheikhs. This is the sheikhs, the teachers at El Azhar University. And this student goes in there, and he literally starts lecturing the teachers about fiqh.
No.
This is after he allegedly watched one of Mubarak Jelani's discourses, okay? And then he goes on to explain how the student said, he said, I need to go back and study everything because of what he said, talking about what Mubarak Jelani said. And then because he said, Mubarak Jelani, and the student was quoting him, is that Sheikh Jelani said, if you're going to practice deen, then you have to follow a madhab. So he went into, allegedly, this student, he's a student, he's ignorant, right? That's what students are. When you become a student, you're attesting to like, I'm ignorant and I need to learn my deen from these teachers or professors or sheikhs, whatever it is. And he literally walks into the office, these offices, and starts lecturing them about, you guys need to learn how to teach fiqh because Mubarak Jelani said that you could only follow one madhab.
They're like, this man's a heretic. What does he got going on here?
I mean, like, how silly is that? Like, you're gonna walk into a university that actually teaches Islamic sciences. All the issues, all the masala, all these different things, they teach them there. They discuss them. They go over them. They have different courses from 101 all the way to 401 to masters to PhD, to all these things. And you mean to tell me that's like walking into a police station and being like, you know, y'all got to have guns. Y'all got, you know, or you know what, you gotta have lights on your cars or what? Like, what are you talking about? I mean, like, it's a thing where they'd be like, yo, get out of here. If you walked into Medina University or Al Azhar and you start talking about something related to, you know, where they have people who are masters in fiqh, they're gonna be like, from a random student who just happens to say, well, y'all gotta, and they were like, so what did they say to him? Oh, you're right. Mubarak Jelani said that. I mean, they might, throw him out like Jazzy Jeff. I mean, literally out of the university. Like, get the heck out of here.
Going with your example, it's literally like this dude walked into the arena, Golden State Arena,
like Steph,
seen Curry, seen Klay Thompson, seen Poole. It was like, listen, man, y'all need to feed the post. Y'all need to get it in the paint. This is how you play basketball.
You're never going to win a championship shooting threes like this. You're never going to win a championship shooting threes. Like, I mean, get out of here. I mean, it's like, to actually say it is one thing. To say it and not laugh immediately is another. And for anyone to listen to him and think, oh, that makes sense. I mean, I don't want to say that they're fools, but I mean, you have to have some mental challenges, some serious, your mental capacity and your ability to process and rationalize information is severely lacking, because none of what he said made sense. It doesn't make sense on any planet, even in a comic book or a movie or something. They would literally be like, this is the cheesiest movie ever. This movie doesn't make sense. I'm not watching it. No one would even believe it if it was made up. It is made up, and that's why we don't believe it.
And just think, like, we know. So allegedly, these people all the way in Egypt at Al Azhar University are now just everybody's accepting Mubarak Jelani's teachings. Meanwhile, none of them have joined the Jamaat. None of them have done nothing, and it just seemed to skip Pakistan, India, and all the surrounding places of where Mubarak Jelani actually lives, but all the scholars over here are like, oh yeah,
Egypt,
let's start quoting him. Let's give his discourses in our Holy Quran class. No, it's
not. And as Mubarak said, because I remember Mubarak posted this video of an actual sheikh, a student, a teacher who passed away. There was like 100,000 people there at his janazah, right? So. If his teachings had made an impact in Azhar in Egypt, it would have spread throughout the Islamic world, all right? So that means that he would have been there.
If it permeated the world and continents or whatever, that janazah would have been standing room only. There was more flies there than people from TMOA, as we
and you
say.
remember the video,
And they,
those people walking around the background. That means his teachers didn't even the little shrine area that he lived in.
His own neighborhood.
Like, oh, he died. All right, whatever. I'm gonna go visit
no,
over here.
No, because I mean, he would have. I mean, just the impact. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say. I know people in this city that are just regular people, and if they passed away, they would have probably 100 times the amount of people, and they're not even shuyukh. They're just, I mean, they're just people who just benefited the community here and there, and were just around. People would show up,
non-Muslims,
so
Muslims,
yeah. So I mean, no. His teaching didn't permeate anywhere, because the you look at, and there was just another recent a sheikh or a scholar who passed away, and he was just in his area. The people just in his area. His teachings didn't permeate the globe. They didn't permeate everywhere. He was just a scholar, a sheikh, a teacher in his local community, and it was standing room only. Lines going around the building for people just to come in and pay their respects or whatever. So, I mean, no, his teaching didn't permeate anywhere. As someone had mentioned in the chat a while back, like, where is TMOAP? Like, where is the TMOA in Pakistan? Where's the where's the Khalifa, the administration, the Shura Council in Pakistan? That's where he lives. That's his base. There isn't one there. It doesn't exist. It doesn't even exist. Literally, you can walk out of his house and not a soul is a TMO whatever, Pakistan, or a Jelani follower or supporter or Jamaat member in Pakistan. No one.
So,
and you're saying they permeated? I mean,
So this next one, it really relates to about he's trying to allege that Mubarak Jelani, like, he established the whole village to raise children, whether they were children or young people, or whether they were children as in new shahadas. People just came into Islam seeking guidance. I will challenge anybody to actually bring me one person that Mubarak Jelani actually made Muslim, actually took their shahada, gave them shahada. I'll bring me one person, because everybody was already Muslim in the Dar al-Islam. And how could you say that he did that? He's doing this. He's giving dawah. He's giving new shahadas, when he literally said out his mouth multiple times, we are not accepting new members. We aren't taking anybody new. If it's just not true. And like, as far as like raising children, where's the schools? Where's the schools on the lands? Where's the education system set up? Where's the Islamic education set up? There's nothing for the children. That's why when the children grow up, they leave. And are these the same children that he raised and set up these villages where he later said that 90% of the men in the Jamaat are committing adultery? Are these the same children that he raised and all? Like, it's we have to stop with the blatant contradictions on what's going on here with these people that are pushing this TMOA propaganda.
The bloviating, and plus, like, the whole saying "fix the village" is not even a Jelani thing. It's a black thing. It's been a thing where the whole community, the whole community you're in will raise you. So your aunties and uncles, the people that next door. That's the thing. That's not even a Jelani thing. You just took that from your actual community, your actual African American community. Say, hey, this man did it to me. No.
Yep. All right. Let's see. The next section is very interesting, and so he says a quote, and he kind of ties it all together. But we're gonna really tie it together when we bring up the facts of the situation. So he says a quote where he says, "I was looking for a gold coin, and I actually found a whole chest of wealth."
And gave it all to Jelani. Yep.
He found a whole chest of wealth, but I'm wondering, was the chest of wealth empty when he found it, and then he filled it with his 10%, 20%, 30%? I wonder how that worked. But then he later says, and this was very, very, very interesting. He says, the history about al-Islam in America is not from these Arabs. The Arabs that set up these quote unquote halal meat stores, he says, or these masjids, he says, built on haram funds to scam other people out of their money and make a fortune. Who does that actually sound like?
It sounds like his father.
Just like Uncle Alim told us, and the people, those people who went over to Pakistan in the beginning, those first groups who went over there, and they know, and some of those founding fathers there who are they're not saying it out loud, but they know that what I'm about to say is the truth, and that is that he lived in basically a trailer park at first, right? He was he was living in a rundown slum, basically. He was not living high on the hog like when he died. So how did he go from living basically, I mean, with a bunch of poor people, with literally next to nothing? They went over and visited him. And for those people that try to deny this, go ahead. Tell us, and we will retract the statement. Tell us, those people who went over there, the first groups who went over there and saw how and where he was living. How is it now that he has not only basically a mansion, but who knows all the other properties that he acquired? How? What was he doing? How did he do it? It's a lie that they said, well, you know, that story, that tale that they would tell, say, Woody is wealthy. He's wealthy. He is now. He is now. Because of all the money, but I mean, and maybe he was wealthy, but his living situation would not have given you that indication. So he went from that treasure chest of wealth that you had, you gave it to him. And so he the actual scamming and becoming rich off of setting up fake, you know, massages and things, Islamic, you know, using Islam to siphon wealth away from people, use it for your own benefit. That Jelani is the blueprint for that.
Exactly, 100%. And then he says this is something that can't be conveyed, it can't be quantified. It is something that has to be understood. Well, it has been quantified. They're fighting over millions of dollars of inheritance. They're fighting over properties. They're fighting over literally gold effing bars, gold bricks. That's what they're fighting. Like, it can be quantified. It can be conveyed. And it is understood that Mubarak Jelani has scammed multiple generations out of a vast amount of wealth that if it would have stayed in their families, in their communities, that the people that are currently living in decrepit conditions have been stunted for multiple generations, would have been the most powerful Muslim group or organization in the United States. If like how many organizations would have had millions and millions of dollars over 40 years? I mean, you just imagine the progress of the Jamaat if Mubarak Jelani was not there, scamming them out of their funds.
Crazy.
So,
halal masjid. First of all, there's in Richmond. There are brothers that fund masjid. These brothers are like doctors and businessmen. They're not using haram. Like there was a brother who donated like $1 million for a masjid to be built in Richmond. Like, and he had it from just like being a doctor for like 20-40 years. Like the stuff these people say.
I mean, he that thing where we do have masajid in this country that are funded by Muslims who run liquor stores and things like that. That is something that happens. So we can't. I mean, that does happen, but his sheikh is in the bunch with him. I mean, doing similar things. I mean, setting up IQOU. You know, these campuses, calling them campuses, and collecting money for you know, oh, this is for the students who come over there to take care of the people or whatever, and all the different reasons why the 10%. And then the 20%, 35%, 100% was said why people needed to pay it. You know, come to find out, it's just getting rich. So I mean, it's no different. I mean, it's the same thing. It's haram for them to for him to scam the people out of their money. It's haram for the people to set up liquor stores and then sell money as Muslims and then give it to them as masjid.
What's worse, making money from alcohol or making money from shirk?
Yeah, but tough question here, Joffrey. You know.
Allah musta'an. Yeah.
It's deep when you think about it. It's real deep.
Well, shirk, because the shirk Allah will not forgive if a person dies on it. So I would think that that's worse because that's a bigger sin. You know, if a person, you know, sold alcohol their whole life and they died, I mean, Allah could wipe that out. You know, Allah has not said that He will not forgive that. Now, maybe that person, you know, could have caught Laylatul Qadr and prayed all night. He could have, you know, people always mention maybe he fed a cat right before he died or whatever. All types of things that he could have done. But the person who you know made their money off of shirk, I mean, especially if they are believing the shirk, I mean, I don't know how they're going to win that one.
So one of the things he says, and this really gets down to, because he does sneak in a few true statements inadvertently, is like what he actually did teach TMY people is he taught them how to serve him.
Yep, obedience. Yep.
Everybody went to Pakistan to serve him, whether it was cut his toenails, massage his feet, clip his hair, trim his beard, whatever other crap that nobody should be doing for another man, especially if you're a non-mahram man. This is what they're doing. They're serving him tea, you know, chai, roti, fried chicken, all the different things that he liked. This is what they're doing. He taught them how to serve him. So that's really actually a true statement that he made. He didn't teach them about Islam. He didn't teach them, you know, the correct deen, the basics of Islam. He taught them how to become servants and slaves to him, as his words, that the actual TMA people, African Americans or Muslims in America, are actually slaves. He goes into a bunch of statements about Sheikh Jelani's teachings, and I'll just kind of like go through them a little bit, and then we can kind of comment on them. One of the quotes that he says is, Shah Sahib, his teachings are haq. You can't cover it. It's going to spread, he says. He says, we know that he would never lie.
Do you, though?
We know that he would never lie, which, you know, we'll comment on in a second. He says for himself, he came to this Jamaat and learned real Islam from Jump Street, from the beginning. Why did you go to Azhar, Jamal, if you learned real Islam from Jump Street?
Yeah, I mean, the part where he said we know he would never lie, that he's the Sheikh of Sheikhs, and he's the head of the Qadri order and all that. I mean, this Qadri order and all these tariqas, this really actually is not even, this is something invented anyway. There was no tariqas and any of that stuff in the time of Rasulullah and the time of the Sahabas or whatever, but that's, I mean, we can put that aside. He's not the leader and never was the leader of the Qadri order. If he told you that, he lied. I mean, he lied, a bold-faced, flat-out lie. And you're saying he would never lie? That 100%, we can verify it. We can verify it. You can type into Google. You can call up your local chapter of the Qadri order and ask them, who's the leader of this joint? They won't say Mubarak Jelani. They will say, we don't even know him. If they do know him, I mean, they'll be like, yeah, we kicked him out. Or he got, you know, he was part of some, you know, low-level joint. He wanted to be the leader or something like that of just his little chapter or whatever it was. But he was not, has never been. He's never been in the running. He's never been even considered as the leader of the Qadri order. This is a lie. And you know it, actually. Jamal, you know that's a lie. So, I mean, you got to rectify that with Allah. I mean, Rasul said that, you know, the people who are, and I'm trying to, I don't want to misquote the hadith, but basically, liars are they're not from us. Just telling lies like this. So maybe someone told you, okay, he's the leader of the Qadr order, and you just ran with it, you just believed it. Okay, now you know he's not the leader. He never was. And if he told you that, he's a
Well,
liar. So what else is he lying?
he's
to you
lying
about?
about. He said he talks to Allah directly. We know that's a lie. He
No.
said he lied multiple times. Like, yeah, Mahdi's going to be here next week around 4 p.m. How many times he tell you about the Mahdi coming up? These are lies, man. These are lies, straight up lies. Either pick. You have to. No matter where you go down these paths of TMOA, like, and this is for anybody that's like in conversation with TMOA members, trying to guide them or whatever. You don't have to work that hard. Just let them walk down whatever road they want to walk down, and it's always a contradiction. So if you bring up like, hey, he lied about the Mahdi, then they might, go down the road like, oh, he didn't lie. He just was mistaken. Oh, okay, he was mistaken? Yeah, he was mistaken. Oh, he made a mistake? Yeah, okay. So how's he a perfect Murshid? Like, no matter where they go, it's a contradiction. So like, he's a liar. We've proven this time and time again. And to say that we know that he would never lie, no, you don't. One, Jamal, so speaking specifically to you, you do not know Mubarak Jelani. Mm-hmm. And, okay, if he would never lie, was everything in that whole Islamic Post expose condemning you and damning you and all these different, the whole article he made about you, Jamal, was all of that the truth? Then why are we even listening to you talk about your father who condemned you in a whole spread in his personal newspaper? This stuff is laughable. I mean, it's really ridiculous.
I mean, that's heavy, man. I mean, it's like he said he never learned any watered down stuff. Never learned any watered down stuff. Everything I have learned was what Shai said. I hope I didn't mean to jump ahead here, but it just Shai said that Shai Sub conveyed to our elders and what they have conveyed to us. So your elders are confused about the validity and are scrambling for sources to help them find proof for what Jelani conveyed to them. Did you know that? They don't know what Jelani conveyed to them. They don't even understand. So you should know that whatever Jelani conveyed to your elders, they don't really have a clue about it. And then they conveyed it to you. You're lost as, I mean, you should not have said that, because your elders don't know anything. They don't know anything. They're being led. In TMOA, the people who actually lead these elders are kids most of the time. K2 was 20 whatever years old. You got people like what's the guy's name, Shaban, and these like people who like they get these positions. The elders, for the most part, they're not even leaders like that. They're not even pushing this whatever they learned from Jelani forward like that. They don't even know.
Exactly. And then he goes into a whole thing with this very close to Shiite type of belief that, all of Islam is like basically through Ahl Bayt. At one point, he says, Allah provided us with the descendants from his blessed family that keep us on the straight path, that keep us in the middle. We don't go too far right. We don't go too far left. No, y'all all the way left.
Yep.
All the way left. Because this is something that we have to keep on emphasizing, is that literally, Jamal, the whole entire world will refute y'all beliefs. The whole entire Islamic world.
Mm-hmm.
So you have on one side, which is the majority of the Ummah, like 99% of the Ummah, does not believe in the shirk belief of the seven sultans. So they'll refute it like that. That's not Islam. Then the ones that do have their own sixth and seventh sultan. So they will also refute you and say, no, he's a fraud. This guy's actually the sixth and seventh sultan, which there's like 5 or 6 of them floating out there. So how are you in the middle of all that? If we did like one of those, like, like a histogram things, y'all are all the way down at the left where this like the line is basically touching like 0. Y'all are, that's what they call outliers. You are an extreme outlier. Yeah. Such an outlier when you're doing statistics, you say, we're not even going to consider that.
Yep.
You exclude it. You exclude it all together. I mean, it's literally Not a single person besides the African Americans living in uh, um, America will tell you. If you can find one person that's not one of the people from TMOA that will say Mubarak Jelani is the sixth sultan and he's my Murshid,
His
the
own
perfect guy.
family won't even
Find
say
me
it.
that.
Yep.
His own
Yeah.
family won't say
Yeah.
it.
It's only y'all. And guess what? No one in the history of Islam, no one believes what you believe. No one in the history of Islam will ever believe what you believe after this current generation of people dies out. It won't be carried on. It's over. Actually, you believe something that it's like a blip, a small dot in the history, and like, yo, in the history books, yo, there was an actual cult group back in the late 90s, early 2000s that fizzled out, before 2030, that believed that somewhere in the person like, wow, that's wacky. Anyway, moving on. I mean, that's what it's going to be.
So, and then he gets into this thing. He talks about, it was mentioned by Dordana Begum, his wife, and Malika Begum. I don't know who that is. Our elders were making dua. Ya Allah sends us somebody. So this is proof. Like, I want us to walk through this psychology, and I want to apply it in different situations. This psychology he has of this is proof. So first issue is that he says Dordana Begum and Malika Begum, who are not elders, by the way, relayed that the elders were making dua. So first of all, for elders should be saying, yeah, we were making specific dua. We were going to our salats and we're all making dua that we wanted a guide. Like, this was like a whole community thing. All of the Dar al-Islam was asking for a guide. Okay. Ya Allah, send us somebody. So this is proof that Allah wanted and still wants good for all of us because he keeps us in the company of the Sufi. Let's follow this logic. Basically, what I'll break it down. What he's thinking is that because someone made dua and someone showed up, that this is proof that it's correct. So let me make a dua. Ya Allah, I want to have sex. I walk outside and lo and behold, I see a female. This is proof that I'm supposed to have sex with that female. This is the dumbest argument you can make to justify Mubarak Jelani as proof that this was, he's the answer to our duas. The first fraudster that comes up, he's the answer.
It's a lie also. It's a lie. Think about this. So these people who didn't know, they didn't have a guide. So they did not know. They were not knowledgeable of what even a guide was. But they're asking for one. That's number one. No. People ask for Allah to guide them. It's in Al-Fatiha, right? Because usually when people become Muslim, they learn Al-Fatiha, they learn the English. They learn it in their own language. They know what it says. So they say, and Allah tells us to say, does Allah tell us to say, send us a Sufi guide, send us a perfect Murshid? Allah sent Rasulullah for that, you idiot. I mean, listen. I mean, Rasulullah's job is to guide. Allah sent him to guide everyone. You follow his teachings, not any person. Everybody is funneling you. They should be. Everybody is funneling you to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he gives you the information so that you can die in a way and upon the right belief that Allah will be pleased with and will accept. So this is a lie. It doesn't even make logical sense for people who don't know. They don't even know what they don't know. And they're saying, send us a guide. How would they even know that the guide that showed up was the proper one? Did Allah didn't say, this is the right one? You may dua, here it goes. No, this is a lie. This is a lie. They didn't say that.
When I'm thinking about it too, because we know the history of this, right? There was already teachers from overseas here in America teaching them. They were already like learning. So that's one. Two, if this was what y'all were asking for, and it was just so clear that this was our guide, why was it a hostile takeover? Why did he need to secure the leaders of the security team of the Dar al-Islam and basically force Imam Yahya to give up leadership? The whole thing is bullcrap. It's straight, like, there's so many holes in this. We know the truth. The truth is out there. We've been putting it out there. There's so many different evidences. There's elders now speaking up and telling the true story. Even people that were part of the coup, speaking specifically about, Uncle MJ, who's come forward and apologized for his actions and said he was wrong. And he's apologized for being a part of misleading the people, but he himself was also misled. It's a total farce. People in the Jamaat, maybe there was some people asking for like a guide or a sheikh or whatever, but this was not just a thing that the Dar al-Islam, like, we need someone to guide us. We need someone to guide us. Ya Allah, please send us a guide. They're getting up, do a canoe, asking for a guide, like how you ask for rain. Ya Allah, we need a guide. We need a guide. No, this was not happening. Mubarak Jilani showed up out of out of the shadow of the toilet bowl of Asia and basically took over ignorant African Americans. That's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, some ignorant African Americans who really actually wanted the power. They explained it. It was over the Saudi money. Okay, some of that Saudi money. Okay. So they wanted. It was a thing over some money, some power, some control, and Jelani was supported as a way to get that, and the joint got away from him. The people, they literally tried to use him, to take over, and then the joint went rogue, and then they lost their power because after that they tried to then take the joint over him, and they got caught, they got exposed. So I mean, you can't act like y'all don't know this history. If y'all don't, go back. Well, actually, did those tapes get deleted where we covered that joint? We might have lost those videos, but anyway, point is that this joint is a lie. It is a complete lie from top to bottom.
So he gets into this, and I don't know if people know this. This is kind of it's a poem that they say in the Jamaat. It's like Dinas Hussein, Shahs Hussein, and whatever. He basically says, and he overrides the poem, right? Because basically it's saying the Deen of Islam is Hussein. It's a poem. Basically, the Deen of Islam is represented by Hussein and his sacrifice in Karbala. And he says, the only modification I say is that Deen, the religion of Islam, is Sheikh Said Mubarak Ali Jilani.
You changed everything. That's literally you changing the whole thing. I mean, that's like you saying, I'm going to the store. Said, listen, I'm not going to change anything about that. I'm going home. That means you change everything. The actual subject literally changes everything. So you took and let's not skip over the fact that this is a daggone random Persian Shiite poem. It's not a hadith. It's your poem. It's not even a hadith. It's not an ayah of Quran. This man, in all this time, he's talking about how he never learned any watered down Islam. He learned true Islam from jump. Blah blah blah. Hasn't even been able to say one hadith. He hasn't been able to say one ayah of Quran so far.
Yeah,
we'll get there. But the thing is, here he is, and this is what you said. And he actually had a prepared statement. He had paper in front of him that he wrote it down. So he sat down, thought through what he was going to say in the sequence that he was going to say it. He had it written down. It was a full sheet. I think it might have been more than one sheet. So when you tell me that if you think, okay, I'm about to give a lecture, a talk, a khutbah, some sort of admonition to the people, what do you start with? What do you build your foundation of what you're going to say as far as Islam is concerned on? You start with the Quran. You start with the Hadith. Then you go with some statements of the scholars, whatever. But you're going to base it around what Allah said, what Rasul said. You come out out your back pocket with a crusty behind daggone Persian shirk poem, and then change the joint.
If I ask anybody, you guys type it, people that are listening, type it in the chat. If I asked you, what is the foundation of La ilaha illallah? So Mubarak Amr, what is the foundation? What would you think the foundation is of La ilaha illallah is? What's the foundation?
Well, for starters, there is no God but Allah. All right. So when you
So Allah is the foundation, or the, you're talking about like the subject of that.
Okay, however
So,
you want. Yeah, exactly. So La ilaha illallah is very self-evident. La ilaha illallah, Allah is the subject, Allah is the foundation. There's only one God, Allah is the God. That's the foundation. So if I came to you and said Hussein is the foundation of La ilaha illallah, you're playing around with shirk. Like, why? This is what this poem comes from, and this is what he's using. But now he's saying he replaced Hussein and put Mubarak Jelani's name in this poem. Like, this is exactly what we're talking about. And we're talking about, like, oh, he learned true Islam and all that, you know. And he gets into, we'll get into it probably pretty soon. But he talks about the seven sultans and all this. It's about time, like Mubarak said. How many years have you been over there in Egypt, allegedly studying at Al-Azhar? And I'm not saying like Jamal's not an ignorant person. I've had conversations with him. He's very intelligent. But what happens is, and we've seen this before in other cases, where people that we know that are educated like Islamically, and like they can go to other Islamic circles, have conversations, they're well respected, but then when they come back into these TMOA circles, they literally lose their minds and start saying shirk, bid'ah, and all these different things to impress these TMOA people. So he's smart enough to know that, oh, this poem is popular in the Jamaat. I'm gonna find a way to work it in here, and maybe I'm gonna get a bunch of, you know, likes and thumbs up or whatever on this video. That's exactly what he was going for, without even thinking like, oh, this is not a hadith, it's not Quran, it's actually a little bit like shirkish and like it's actually from Shiites. Like, this is, you know, come on, Jamal, you got to do better than that. Like, we put this as scholars in quotes because in TMOA people recognize you as a scholar. You and Hassan Ali, who did not graduate from Azhar, came to America and put on the Azhar kufis. Like, I'm Azhari. You have on your Facebook profile Jamal al-Azhari. You did not graduate. Allah knows best if you attended, but people recognize you as a scholar, as an authority of Islam. You have to do better because you're doing a disservice to the people. And if you're not a scholar and you don't consider yourself a scholar, then tell the people, I am not a scholar. So they know that they can't take stuff from you. Like I tell people all the time, I am not a scholar. I am a low-level student of knowledge, trying to learn my deen for myself. And people say, oh, he's just a low-level student. Well, guess what? It's enough to totally destroy 40 years of teaching of your sheikh.
I mean, you know, and it's not even about being low level, any level, whatever level you are, whatever information you have, you can convey it. So, I mean, he's conveying, and maybe he was sincere in what he conveyed, but I mean, it's so far out. So, with the information that we have, I mean, this is fairly easy to show the misguidance, the falsehood, and the innovation that's in it. So if this is one of your scholars, I mean, what does that say about your whole operation? Almost not.
Another quote he said is, and I mean, he said, we know he wouldn't lie, but I mean, Jamal, you know this is not true. He says Sheikh Mubarak Jelani established Islam in America. This is absolutely true.
No, it's absolutely false.
Go refer to Fatima Jelani's. She has a whole documentary about some aspects of the history of Islam in America, how Islam came over here from slavery from Africa already. It's been here ever since the beginning, right? Jamal, my man, go watch Roots.
Yep.
It's simple. Alex Haley, go read his book. Like, come on, man. This stuff is
and even if you don't want to go back that far, like Mubarak Jelani came to the Darul Islam.
Yes.
Like, huh?
No, yeah. They were.
Let's see. What else did he says here? So another quote about the Ahl Bayt. He says, the only way this path can be straight is by the way of Ahl Bayt. As Rasulullah said, they will be with us until Qiyamah. So let's actually like go into some of the actual like Islamic, like the hadiths. So people can have a good, we touch on this a lot, but we have to kind of drill this home because people really get stuck up on this Ahl Bayt stuff. So, there's a hadith, and where's it at? That's somewhere in here. But anyway, the moral of the story is that there's no obedience to anyone if they're not following the Quran and Sunnah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if they're Ahlul Bayt. It doesn't matter what their lineage is. There's nothing, right? And we know the hadiths that the guides that Allah has left for us is the Quran and the Sunnah. That is the path. That is the straight path that Allah has left for us, that Rasul Sallallahu has left for us to follow. We say it like Mubarak made reference to the Fatiha. We say it every day, multiple times a day. This is our path. This is our straight path. There's nothing in our salat, what Allah commands us to say during our salat, that says, let me follow Ahlul Bayt. There's nothing. We send blessings upon them, the righteous ones, the descendants. We do send blessings on Rasul Sallallahu and his family, just like we send blessings on Ibrahim alayhi salam and his family. We do that. But at no point does it says, Ya Allah, please send me an Ahlul Bayt or a descendant of Rasul Sallallahu to guide me on the straight path. It's never been in your salat, and it never will be.
And you can, and if you can find one, source of evidence from Allah or His Messenger or anything that says that if a person is Ahlul Bayt or claiming to be Ahlul Bayt, automatically follow them. They're definitely going to be guided. This is not true. I mean, the hadith of Rasulullah who said that if his own daughter were to, Fatima radiallahu anha, were to steal, she would cut her hand. As telling you that just because you're Ahlul Bayt does not automatically mean you will be right guided, you do the right thing. And if they do something wrong, they are subjected to the same rules, regulations of Islam as everyone else. So if they are not qualified to be a leader, they ain't the leader.
Yeah.
If they're not qualified, if they do something that qualifies them for some sort of punishment, some admonition, some refutation, then they get that too. They're just like everybody else in regards to their responsibility to Allah and what they must do when Allah's commands and what they must avoid with Allah's prohibitions. And not above anything else, they have to learn the religion just like everyone else. Just because they say that Ahlul Bayt, ain't no downloads in this life. They're not downloaded in the religion. I know he said that he was taken up to the sky and taught by, Imam Ali, that he said that his grandmother told him that. Like, he didn't even experience it. He don't even remember nothing that he was actually taught. But this is not true. This is not the way that Allah works. This is not the sunnah of Allah in which things are just downloaded. There's only one actually authentic statement in which a person receives some overnight rectification and some Islamic knowledge, and that is Al-Imam Mahdi, who Allah says is going to rectify him in one night. Which the earlier man say that he's not necessarily going to be some sort of well-known pious figure, but in one night Allah will rectify him and make him to where he will have the knowledge and the ability and the taqwa and the piety or whatever that's needed for that role. Other than that, everybody else got to go it the hard way. You got to get in the books, you got to learn and study, and it takes a long time. And these people that try to take these shortcuts, I'm a sheikh so and so, I don't, I just got taken up to the sky and I learned everything. That's a daggone lie. It's a lie, and it is disrespectful and to the people. I mean, these people are over in Azhar, studying. I hope they're studying. But if you were studying and you know the effort and the discipline, the dedication, and the struggle it is to stay on your studies day in and day out, you should be upset that a person who didn't do no studying, you can tell when he opens the books and tries to read the Quran and things, he didn't study. You can tell by the way he speaks, he didn't study anything. You should be upset and like, this man is actually trampling on your profession. You are an inheritor of the prophets. The prophets don't leave behind wealth, they leave behind the knowledge of Islam. And so we are trying to inherit that. And they are lying about an inheritance that was left to you and saying that they have it when they don't.
And real, Real
Go on,
quick,
I'll stop there.
I want to ask Amr this because Amr is really into history, and this is you don't have to go too far to refute a lot of these things. So he's saying you have to follow Ahl Bayt. That's the straight path.
Mhm.
So, and then he later mentions, this one I'm about to ask Amr. Amr, who was the first Khalifa after Rasulullah?
Abu Bakr ibn Siddiq, who was not who was not Ahl Bayt at all.
What about the second one?
So the second one
Because
was
they would have to get it right by the second time, right?
Of course. I mean, well, according to the Shiites, they believe that Ali was the only Khalifa. But there was 3 Khalifas in Islam before they got to Khalifa who was Ahl Bayt. So you had Abu Bakr, you had Umar, and then you had Uthman, and that was all before you got to Ahl Bayt to be the leader of Islam, the Khalifa of Islam. So
no, and
So Ali actually, and even with that, he was the Khalifa, but not only was Muawiyah in that little squabble, so Muawiyah wound up being Khalifa, but even after that, the son of Ali, radiallahu anhu, Al-Hassan, who he actually gave the leadership, he abdicated and gave to Muawiyah. So this is actually refuting any of that by actual members of Ahlul Bayt. They're saying that we don't have, it doesn't have to be. Otherwise, what you're saying is that Al-Hassan was wrong and you're right. So you're basically refuting Ahlul Bayt.
It will go against the hadith that Rasul said that basically predicted how Hassan would make a decision. I don't know, remember the exact wordings, but basically predicted that he was going to make a decision that was going to be beneficial to the Ummah. And basically the scholars say that this is the decision he made of abdicating the caliphaship and saving the lives of many Muslims. So like Mubarak said, you're either saying that Hassan was wrong, that he went against the orders of Allah and Rasul for what? Was he afraid, scared? Like what was the, like again, no matter what road you go down with this TMOA bullcrap, there's a contradiction. Just let them lead the way. So here, and we're kind of skip over these, but he made a lot of like theological issues according to Islam. Like he makes this statement that Allah wants good for a talib or a murid, he will place them in the company of the Sufis.
What?
You won't find this.
This is a lie.
Straight up, because like there's multiple hadiths, and one that came to mind is where in the Bukhari and Muslim, where Rasulullah said, "Whoever Allah wants goodness, what does He give him? Understanding of the religion."
Yep.
He doesn't say, "Oh yeah, go hang out with these guys over here that are bobbing their heads and shaking up and doing dances." No.
I mean, look at how it doesn't even make sense. A scholar, a student of knowledge, someone who actually studied would never even say this. We'll put him with the Sufis. This is the source. This is you prepared this. You wrote out on paper what you're going to say, and this is what you came up with. The weakest, I mean, most easy to refute statement. It's not even a hadith. You're quoting Junaid al-Baghdadi, which, okay, I mean, may Allah bless him for his efforts, but he's not Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So why can't you go to that? He puts him with the Sufis. What is a Sufi? Some of them dance and sing. Some of them don't even pray. What? Which ones?
Right.
He doesn't say put him with the Muslims. He doesn't say put him with the righteous. He doesn't say put him with the people of Quran. He doesn't say put him with the Muhaddithin. He doesn't say put him with the Mufassirin. He just skips all that and just says put him with the Sufis. I know that there are Sufis who don't pray. They don't even fast. They say that their Islam is in their heart. They just dance. And so this is when Allah wants good for him, this is what He does. Just put him with the Sufis. Shame on you, brother.
And
shame
for
on you, Jamal.
Claiming to be a Qadri Muslim, Qadri Sufi, right? Go read any of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani's books, and a lot of his books is severely, harshly criticizing Sufis. I mean, he goes into all these different deviant Sufi groups. But I guess if you're in a group, that means Allah wants good for you.
And he also, you got it down here. But I was I saw the ayah in Surah Nisa in which he he read and quoted badly. And listen, man, I get it. I'm pretty sure if someone runs all the tape back of me reciting or quoting some Quran or Hadith, I'm pretty sure that I slipped up and said an Arabic word wrong here or there. But for the Jamaat scholar, the scholar of Al Azhar, you're sitting in one of the capitals, one of the main places for learning Arabic and understanding it. And you talked about how you were teaching, you were explaining the teaching of Mubarak Jilani into Arabic for people who didn't know. You butchered this ayah badly. And you should know, if you either read enough or you studied grammar, you would instantly have known when you made the mistake, because it doesn't make sense when the ayah says ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ati'u Allah, okay, it's going to be with ati'u is okay, obey. It's a command to obey. So if you know the word, because you say you know Arabic, okay, and you should know some grammar over there in Egypt for all this time, so you would know that whoever is you're supposed to be obeying, the command is telling you to obey, whoever you're supposed to obey, this is going to have a fatha, okay? It's going to have a fatha, because if you put a kesra on it, it's going to change the meaning. It's going to change the meaning, or it just shows that you have such poor grammar skills. It's like you saying, like we would tease my daughter, when she was younger, because she would say stuff like, instead of she stole the honey bun, she would say her stole the honey bun, or something like that, right? She would just say, like, it's like cringeworthy grammar. Like, it shows that you really don't know the language like you should. And so the way that you butchered this ayah, it's like you changed the meaning, and it showed ignorance. It showed extreme ignorance of even what you were saying. And the thing is, if you had just been reciting it from your memory, if you just been reciting off the cuff, whatever, but you had a prepared statement, you had it written down. How do you do that? That means you don't even know the material that you're trying to teach people. You're trying to tell people about something that you don't even know about yourself. You have not studied the ayah. You have not actually studied the tafsir of this. And it shows you didn't study the tafsir of this, because what did you mention? He mentioned Sultan Dagon Bahu. This is who he went to for the tafsir of the ayah. Sultan Bahu. Who is he? You skipped over Ibn Kathir, At-Tabari, Sa'di. You skipped over all types of people, Jalalain, and people you could have at least went to. And I mean, even Abu Jilani, had said, study Tafsir Jalalain. You skipped over that, and you found a random quote from Sultan Bahu that it was wrong. And
absolutely
it was
wrong.
Yeah.
Absolutely wrong. And just to add on to that, like, I'm not a Quran expert. I'm not a great reciter. I'm not an expert of the Arabic language. But for me to hear him say that, and I was like, wait, that don't sound right. Something's wrong. Like, I'm saying, because I'm really not that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would have to literally read directly from the thing. I won't be able to do it from memory. Some ayats, yes, but and for me, it's like, wait, that don't sound. So he made a mistake. We were talking about it. We're like, yo, he made a mistake, right? Yeah, he did multiple mistakes.
Yeah, he butchered it that bad. Ati Allah wa ati Rasulah. That tells you who they should obey. Uti'u, okay, uti'u. Who should you obey? Allah wa Rasulah. That's how you know. That's how you, when you speak Arabic, you have to do that. Otherwise, you'll confuse the listener. So you changing the words of Allah. I mean, listen. If it was just if you were trying and you made the mistake and it was a sincere effort or whatever, then that's one thing. But when you sit there and you're trying to tell people with authority, you're speaking to people with some, coming from a place where they think you have the knowledge and you don't. This is where you get punished, because you're talking without knowledge and you're actually in over your head. So you're wrong for this. You butchered the words of Allah, and then you went to the tafsir and got a tafsir from someone who's not even a mufassirin.
He got
Sultan Bahu
a tafsir from a tafsir that his sheikh never even used.
We learned this, all this Islam from. it's got me so frustrated. I mean, that was like it's so egregious, and it's just.
And this is the danger. Like
is,
out of all these things, this is a real dangerous one because there's such a punishment for speaking without knowledge, especially about Allah, Allah's book, a hadith. You cannot speak without knowledge. And if you go to any of the tafsirs, even if you want to just use the tafsirs that are approved in TMOA, you will not find any explanation of the Murshid Kamil in the Quran tafsir. And he explains it. He gives like, oh, this is he tries to use Arabic. He'll go to the Arabic dictionaries, and this is what it means. Murshid Kamil, very simple, means the perfect guide. Who is the perfect guide on this earth? Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Yeah.
Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the perfect guide, and that is the only thing that's perfect is Allah, right? But we use the word perfect generally to mean like the best and all this, however you want to say it. Okay. But when you say multiple things are perfect, because if you're saying, your sultan, your sheikh is perfect. And of course, you cannot say that Rasulullah is not the perfect guide. But what you have done is you have equated somebody to the last prophet of Allah, where other prophets are not even equated to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to really think about what the words that you're saying. We talked about this in one of our previous shows where, someone could be on the path to hell and say one word that will get them to heaven. One statement. And the opposite applies. Someone could be on the path to Jannah and then make a statement that will throw them to the depths of hell. We have to be very careful of what we say. And Jamal, you should know this, that you should issue a statement. You should take down that video. You should issue a statement to the people of the mistakes you made, correct yourself, retract your statements, apologize, to clear yourself with Allah. That's what you should do. And we challenge anybody, if we make mistakes, please help protect us by checking us so that we can publicly correct ourselves and retract our statements and say what is in accordance to Allah, the Quran, and and the Sunnah. Please, for our sake.
And the thing is, it's very dangerous. The thing is, Jamal, is that if anyone watched your video and they believe and act upon the things that you said, you will be responsible not only for your wrong, but their wrong too. They're still going to get whatever is coming to them for their actions based off what you said. But you're going to get a copy too because you led them to it and you confirmed it for them and you reinforced it for them. So you're going to get a share too. So if you understand some of the things that we're saying and you can see where you were wrong, don't be prideful, don't be arrogant. Just go out, make the statement, correct the mistakes where you made them so that Allah will free you, inshallah, from any wrongdoing that people do after you. If you make a mistake, clean it up, clear it up. That way you're free from them, because we all are going to have enough trouble on our own dealing with our own sins and baggage when we meet Allah. You don't want someone else's stuff too, because you might come to the realization, you might actually go to Al-Azhar one day, you might actually attend and be like, man, this whole stuff that I was taught was false. I'm leaving it. But guess what? You made a video that confirmed and reinforced in the minds of some other people. You can't just leave them there in their ignorance. If you leave it, you're still going to be responsible for what you led them to. So you got to correct it before it's too late.
The last thing we're going to talk about, because we're going to have to wrap up soon, and if anybody has any questions, quick questions that we can answer before we sign off, please post them in the chat. We'll try to answer as many as we can before it gets too late. It's already late, and we apologize for the lateness, but we, schedules and all that. But he goes into a whole bit basically condemning African American culture. This is a thing that Jelani has been known for. He says some people have the audacity to try and complain that he was talking bad about African American culture. He was right. The African American culture was a pagan culture. They always take the worst of pagan aspects, and he gave us his culture, the Pakistani culture. Basically, he condemns the African American culture. He agrees with Mubarak Jelani, which is he's right. He can have his opinion, we can have our opinions, all right. And he also says that the African American culture has always taken the worst of pagan aspects, and Mubarak Jelani gave him his culture. So the first thing I want to mention about this thing is that there's a strong argument that can be made is that the African American culture is the most influential culture in the entire world right now. In the entire world, not just currently, for decades. Where did rock and roll music come from? Where did country music come from? Where did certain dances and certain customs, where did certain foods come from? And you see that most of these types of things trace back to some kind of African American culture. And I wish, this is what I wanted to bring up, but I didn't have time, is that we can make an argument that African Americans are all Africans that are on the American continent, which means Canada, South America, and all that. You got a whole video where your new sultan, your new sheikh, Noor, is driving around listening to Jamaican music. So, like, you know, is this the pagan culture that your new sheikh is actually listening to? And what's more pagan than African Americans who left Christianity that are coming to these Sufis that supposedly Allah put them in because he wanted good, and they're actually going on public stages saying, yeah, we believe in the Trinity.
Yeah. And there's another thing too. There's another thing that he says African American culture is pagan. I would like to know what is specifically pagan about African American culture. Everything in African American culture is not great.
Yeah,
I'm not even saying that.
Correct.
But so he says he gave you Pakistani culture. He didn't say Islamic culture, or So, where does Pakistani culture come from?
Oh man,
Indian culture. And what is Indian culture? I mean, did he even think about what he said? So you're trying to Pakistani culture, most of it, and the Pakistanis will tell you, Indian culture has such a heavy influence on, because basically at one point in time, maybe he doesn't know this, Pakistan wasn't always a country. It was just India. And then they had a war in the mid 1900s or whatever. And then they had a little partition or whatever. And then Pakistan became Pakistan. And then India stayed India. And then Bangladesh got cut off. And it's kind of, India's in between there. But the point is that at one point in time, India was just India. And Pakistan was part of India. And that whole culture is all the same. Someone just at one point in time drew a line on the map and renamed an area, and that's it. The British, So, I mean, you're talking about pagan culture, and you said he gave you Pakistani culture, which is actually Indian culture, which is, I mean, the most pagan.
The most pagan,
the most shirk-filled, the most,
let's see. I mean, let's just Google this. Let's just Google this. Indian gods.
They got too many to count.
Indian gods: Shiva, Hanuman, Brahma, Vishnu, Durga, Indra, Ganeshi, Krishna, Kali. 15 more: Kartikeya, Saraswati, Surya, Agni, Varya, Ayupan, Buddha, Come on, man.
Yeah. So do you want to know where these shrines come from? The shrines. You know where that culture derived from? Indian culture. The Indians, they have the shrines where they put food out for their gods, right? And they go there. The Pakistani culture, this is there too. This is where the shrine. So the actual shrine that you built in commemoration and love and adoration for your sheikh, your Murshid Kamil, this is straight from Indian culture, pagan culture. So you want to say that African American culture is pagan? All right, prove it. Show me something. I won't. I mean, if it's got, we'll confirm it. If it's true, we'll deny it. If it ain't, but we ain't even claiming like, African culture. This is our culture. We're African Americans, so we have a lot of the culture that we grew up with. We ain't saying that it's Islam. We're not claiming it to be part of Islam. We're not claiming it to be holy. I mean, we say certain things. We have certain language. We use certain words. That's just that's just our culture. But for you to just say it's pagan culture, prove it. But we can prove that this alleged Pakistani culture that he gave you that was better than your own culture is pagan. It comes from shirk. It comes from Indian culture. So flip it on the other side and prove that what he gave you is more correct. or better in some sort of way than the pagan culture they gave you. That what you had was worse than what he gave you. I don't think you can.
Well, let me know if you guys could hear this, and I want the people in the chat to respond. What do you think is more of a pagan culture, African American or
Pakistani?
Pakistani.
Listen, now, first of all, Jamal, listen. I don't even think Pakistan has been around long enough to actually have a culture for real, like to really define, because it was 1948, 1947, like shortly after World War II, where Europe's like, listen, you guys are now your own thing. So like you guys haven't even been around long enough to actually have your own culture really form. It's really have its roots. Like it hasn't even been 100 years yet. You guys have been free for 70, 80 years. Like the African American. First of all, your chef loves our food. so that's part of the culture that he loves. So like
the
women.
The light skinned ones anyway, but
yeah, exactly, because Pakistani food, Indian food, that's the same thing.
And can anybody tell the difference between a Pakistani wedding and an Indian wedding?
No.
Can anybody tell the difference between a Indian Muslim wedding versus a Pakistani Indian or a Hindu Indian wedding or a Sikh Indian wedding? No, you can't. So I'm so glad you pointed that out, because that's just such an obvious, like, dude, you are spitting bullcrap. Since like this is the first time I heard of the African American culture being pagan. It's the first time in my life I've ever heard that. If you want to say Christian with some Islamic roots, with some like maybe some like witchcraftery stuff that you go down to the islands, like you could work that in there, but to really go to paganism, I don't. That's the first, man. It's first for me. So I think that's all we got. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that he said. If anybody wants to get the rest of the contradictions and do their own analysis, that's fine. You can even do your own personal reaction videos and send them to us. We'll post them on our channel. There's a lot of stuff he said in there. And Jamal, if you're watching this, we tried to, just so we let the people know, we tried to reach out to him privately so we could privately advise him. We tried multiple means. We sent text messages. We sent Facebook messages. We actually posted a message under the exact video so that he could see it, but they removed the message. So there's multiple means we tried to reach this guy to advise him privately, to give him that respect. They did not respond. They did not reach out to us. They had no answers. We even reached out to Jordana because she's allegedly a Qadi, and asked to provide proof, because when you're a Qadi, this is your responsibility now that you take up under the eyesight of Allah, that you have to answer questions and give verdicts to people that come to you with issues. So we asked for support of the 7 sultans from the Holy Quran and the Sunnah. We did not receive a response. We did not expect to receive a response, because there is no response, as we have proven time and time again. And if there's any questions, please post them now, because we're going to wrap up in a few minutes. Oh, there's a lot of activity in the chat. Alhamdulillah.
Let's see. Questions. Assalamualaikum. Y'all still spreading the errors and faults of a misguided leader who has misguided others. Is this the way in Sunnah how to rectify a people? Barakallahu fiqh. I would say we have stories of people who were astray or led people astray from the Sirah, from the Quran, from the Hadith, where you can use these stories of these people who were astray to help guide those who were astray or possibly going off the wrong path now. So like for Jelani claiming all these things, you could look for the story of like Musaylama al-Kadhab, the liar, right? So you could use that story and see how he went wrong, and talk about how he did wrong to lead you people to today. Hey, this is wrong. He's wrong too. Go back to Allah.
Who is this Baki Sunken?
I don't know,
but he's saying, so what are y'all thoughts of Sheikh Qaradawi and Sheikh Wasifi? May Allah have mercy on them. And then he says, the foundation is Tawheed. There are many gods. People don't even know the foundation of Shahada. What?
Wait, what?
Maybe it was a typo. Hopefully,
There
Baki.
aren't many gods. All right.
Mubarak, do you know those sheikhs? I heard Qaddawi.
Yeah.
Is he the
Qaradawi, he just passed away recently.
Egyptian guy?
You know,
Okay, yeah. He got a bunch of books. Sheikh Qaddawi, yeah, he has a bunch of books.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some. He has some haters. He has some supporters. I mean, it's like it's a long issue that's really outside of our range.
Okay. Well, we want to end on one of the quotes from Jamal that is actually the truth, and we've been proving it for the last 4 to 5 years. And this is supported in the Quran. And inshallah, after we read the quote, and I'll read the English of the ayat that inshallah Mubarak will close us out with. And it's ayat in Surah 17, it's ayat 81. And I don't know if you're going to recite some multiple ones because it's only one ayat that we're going to refer to. So Jamal says in his thing, he says, there's no covering up because you can't cover the truth. You can't cover the truth. You can't cover the truth. The truth is always gonna, you can't cover the light with darkness. And this is absolutely true. These are facts. 100. All the stuff he said in this is the absolute truth because this is supported by the Quran, even though he did not provide the reference in the Quran. Allah says and say, truth has come and falsehood has departed. Indeed, falsehood is ever bound to depart. So truth will always conquer falsehood. And just like this audio or this video that he put out, just like all of Mubarak Jelani's teachings, just like all the practices in TMOA, all that falsehood that existed has been exposed. And the truth comes out time and time again. Alhamdulillah, because this is what Allah does. This is the sunnah of Allah, is that he extinguishes falsehood with truth. We are grateful and humbled to actually just be a part of it, that Allah is allowing us to be here and be imperfect tools to help spread this message and help be the voices to uncover this. But by Allah, if we didn't say a word, Allah would expose it another way and another way. He does not need us, but I encourage ourselves first and everybody else that's out there, try to grab on. Like, you know how we invest, right? You want to get it on the ground floor before it runs out, right? Before it's not an opportunity, you're not going to make any money on it, right? We have a great opportunity here to take advantage of all these blessings by just jumping on this bandwagon of trying to spread this truth that Allah is going to expose anyway. Just say the truth. Speak the truth. Speak against the falsehood. You could do it privately. You could do it publicly. You could do it secretly even. There's ways to do it, and you can grab onto those blessings. And this, we've talked about this multiple times. This is the only reason why we exist. Because we stayed up, alhamdulillah, 2 hours plus hours after Isha in the times of Tahajjud, alhamdulillah, the real halaqah, the real gatherings of dhikr, speaking about the truth and promoting the message of Allah. And we're all, inshallah, going to get blessings for that. Us speaking, you guys in the chat participating, you guys watching the videos, you guys liking the videos, you guys sharing the videos. And inshallah, I want to encourage as many people as possible to also get to the point where you are on this platform. You are making videos. We will help you. We will push you. We will show you how to do it. We can even do it anonymously. You can have a voice changer and be behind a black screen and do the same thing. It's really not that hard. You could dedicate 30 minutes out of your entire week and it would go a long way.
I mean,
so we'll leave with that, and Mubarak, inshallah, can close us out.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا. And the truth has come and falsehood has departed. And indeed falsehood by its nature is always bound to depart. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.